Welcome to Bay Area Psychology. Tonight we focus on healing through touch. Touch can affect every aspect of our well-being, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. In fact, during the 19th and early 20th century, a large percentage of children born every year died from a disease called marasmus, which means wasting away, caused by a lack of physical contact. Once this was identified, infant contact was increased and mortality rates dropped dramatically. Now, the need for touch doesn't end in childhood. In fact, in his book, Touching, Ashley Montague describes research suggesting that adults suffering from conditions as diverse as asthma to schizophrenia have been successfully treated by psychiatric therapy that uses extensive physical contact. Tonight, we are fortunate to be joined by founder and director of the Biomagnetic Touch Healing Process, Paul Buckey, and local nationally certified massage therapist, Ellen Mastros. I want to welcome you both to talk to us tonight about the importance of touch. Now, I remember when Leo Buscaglia came out with his hugging book and sort of that idea about we all need a certain, I think he said 8 or something like that, 8 hugs a day, that ideally for our well-being. And since you're both physical practitioners, I would guess that you probably support that kind of thing.
No, definitely.
Is that about right?
Definitely,
right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
What, let me ask you, and I'll start with you, Paul, what drew you to doing physical kind of healing like biomagnetic touch healing?
Well, what drew me to do it was I had my own problem, and somebody touched me, the man who created the system. He touched me with a sciatic nerve problem, and it was so light. It was like a butterfly landing on you. It used these 2 fingers, and it just lightly touched me and actually allowed my back to align itself and adjust itself, and the sciatic nerve problem went away. And I was so amazed by such a light touch could have such a profound effect that that's how I got involved in this particular technique, and have found since then that touching that lightly is actually being shown scientifically to be very, very effective for the whole well-being of the body.
In fact, you've been trained in Reiki?
Reiki,
Reiki,
yes.
I'm sorry, Reiki training. Because when you said that, that reminds me of Reiki, where I had that experience once, and I don't think you actually physically...
With Reiki, you do actually touch the person, although the touch can be through clothing, so it doesn't necessarily have to be on bare skin. There are many forms of energy work, and I'm not familiar with biomagnetics, but there are many different forms of energy work where you're either actually touching the skin or just above the level of the skin, and yet there is that energy transference from one human being to another or through one human being to another. Just because we can't see it with our eyes doesn't mean that it isn't happening.
Now, like Paul, have you had any personal experience the same way? I mean, been touched by somebody and found it very...
Well, I don't have as dramatic a story as Paul's, but yes, I was at a point in my life, and how I got into what I do is that I was looking for a career that would be more fulfilling to me, and I'd had body work myself, and I knew that it was good for me. And I knew that if it was good for me, it would be good for other people as well. So I made a career switch, and I found it very rewarding and fulfilling. It's something that people really, really need today, more than ever. The more high-tech our society becomes, the more detached we become, the more we really need that touch.
You know, I imagine that that's definitely when people come to your center for healing. That's probably very true, that sense of alienation, or almost like there's plexiglass between us.
And people are sitting at home, excuse me for interrupting, people are sitting at homes on the internet thinking that they're making a connection with people, and I'm not knocking the internet, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
Not quite the same.
Yeah, people are, most people that come to us aren't getting touched, and more and more doctors now are beginning to touch their patients. We're working with a doctor in Yuba City, I hope he's still there, who actually is taking a technique that we're doing, and he's touching his patients. And he made a neat statement. He says he never lets a patient leave his office that he hasn't touched. And I talked to a lot of his patients, and they say there's no finer doctor than they met than him. So it's neat to see even in the medical system they're getting back to just to that simple touch on the arm, or you know, on the head or something like that. So a lot of people that come to us, it's their only touch they get all week long. We get a lot of elders that come to us, and they live alone, and they're in a lot of pain, they're taking a lot of medication, and nothing's helping. And just that light touch, which just works on the physiological level, obviously just the caringness of it too is helping people allow their body to heal itself, you know, without heavy manipulation or external stimuli to it.
That's what it sounds like, that the connection itself. You talked about it, energy exchange. I mean, it seems to be a large part of the healing.
Right.
Because I know there are so many different techniques. So there isn't just one way to do this. What they seem to have in common is being engaged, that we're engaged.
That's a large part of it, I agree.
Well, tell us briefly, if you can, because I know it's probably something you're passionate about, but what is biomagnetic touch healing?
Well, basically it's just a very simple touch technique that uses the index and the middle finger of each hand, and we reach and we touch with those fingers very lightly, as you can see, as if a butterfly were landing on you. The nice thing about this technique compared to a lot of the other ones out there that all do the same thing is the simplicity of this one. We can teach, and we have taught everywhere from 6-year-olds to 96-year-olds to teach them how to do this very simple technique. They reach out, touch their family and their loved ones, and have almost immediate results just with that light of a touch. And
so you're touching a painful place? Like
both of that. We deal with specific areas, like in that little manual we had. There's the shoulder set.
Yeah, I don't know, Dawn. Can you get this or not? It's kind of small.
But you can see
what you can do.
That's a little of our training that we deal with it, and that
there
looks
you
good.
Go.
So we can see here that's a shoulder set, and you can see there's some very specific points and very easy points that we give with a manual. And we have a 9-year-old girl right now getting certified in the technique. That's how simple it is. And our eldest is 86-year-old, and so it's allowing people. We've been in the school system, we've been into the medical system, physical therapies, and it's allowing people to participate through touch in a healing process that's allowing people to activate their body to heal itself.
Yeah.
So that's the basic system of it. It's simple, everybody can do it, and we have the great opportunity to have people here in this town who are certified in it now trying to get the word out. We don't charge people for what we do either. We have a center in Hawaii and one in Tucson that's strictly free of charge, and all volunteers that work for it. Nobody gets paid in the foundation. Our main goal is to do what we're talking about here, just to get touch out to people that can activate the body to heal itself.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing.
What, in your experience, and I'll ask you this, Ellen, but certainly pipe in, what point in our lives do we stop experiencing touch? I mean, is it, because I know that with my nephews and my niece, you know, I'm just constantly rolling them around like puppies, and they're sitting all over me. I mean, what do you think happens? At what point does that stop?
Well, there are a variety of things. I mean, we can stereotype and generalize. Oftentimes the elderly, as Paul was mentioning, get very isolated. And for some reason in our society, we often associate touch with sexuality. And yet we also associate elderly people as being non-sexual. So if they're widowed or divorced, living alone, they often get very touch deprived. Who's going to go up and hug an old guy on the street for no reason? So there's not the physical attractiveness. We never lose the need for touch. The other thing, you know, people go through divorce and things where, again, where they just get lonely and isolated. And I just lost my train of thought. Jump in, Paul.
So there's lots of probably, you're talking about circumstantial reasons where we lose our primary partner, or, but you know, it seems like culturally too, that children get to a certain age and we, I don't know, it's like when you start shaking hands with your nephew as opposed to...
Thank you. You brought me back to where I was. Oftentimes with women it's more acceptable to hug other women friends, but with men they don't necessarily hug. Very few men will hug. Generally it's like you say, it's limited to a handshake. Little boys get to a certain age where they often will hug and kiss their fathers, and then they get to a certain age, and I don't know when that is, maybe 8, 9, 10, 12, where fathers will no longer hug and kiss them as much anymore. So I think it's just it's cultural partly, but the sad part is that we never lose the need for touch, regardless of whether our culture values it or not.
That's a very good point. That yes, absolutely. In other cultures, there are certainly different beliefs about physical space and how much touch is appropriate, and but our bodies don't know the difference whether we're in Italy or whether we're in America. So when people come in, I know you see people, there's, one of your specialties is the craniosacral.
Craniosacral work,
That's
yes.
right.
Yes.
That's right.
Would you like me
Yeah,
to
will you
say
tell me a
something?
little about that?
Craniosacral work is also a very subtle work. It's not specifically energetic, although that is a component to it. Again, it's a very light touch therapy on various points on the person's body in attempt to rebalance the craniosacral system, which leads to again, helping the body to heal itself. There's nothing that anyone else can do for you that your body can't do for yourself. So it's not as if people come to me or go to Paul to have them fix me. It's that the practitioner assists the body in its own healing processes by activating energy that's already there, inherent in the system.
That's a very good point. It kind of reminds me of readings I've done with the chakra points and things like that. There's sort of that natural energy that that maybe has gotten blocked, or in fact, don't chiropractors talk about in terms of holistically that it's a matter of freeing the energy up, not
Stimulating the body's own life force.
right.
The body has a propensity to heal itself.
Yeah.
If it's allowed to.
So what you as practitioners would do would be help to remove some of those blocks.
Sure,
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever find that people in that process become very emotional?
It
Yeah.
can happen, sure.
Yeah.
My feeling is, again, that a practitioner never will force an emotional reaction in a person if that person isn't already in a place where they're ready to do that. There has to be a level of trust with the practitioner, and the person just has to be so-called ripe, ready and willing for that to happen and in the right place in their life. But sure, it can happen, and there are many forms of body work that are specifically for what's called somato-emotional release, which is a person goes in with the goal in mind that they will do some emotional work, but work through the body as a tool, versus, say, going to a psychologist or a counselor and talking about
kind of
it.
talking about it.
Right.
We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we will learn more about the power of touch. Stay with us. Welcome back. Okay, when we left, we were talking about emotions that sometimes arise in the process of doing kind of body work, and it reminded me of when I think about the bestseller list currently, or every time I turn on PBS, I'm seeing